What is up, everybody? This is Josh, and today I'm bringing you guys another Yu-Gi-Oh video regarding the new set Crossover Breakers that is set to shake up the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame severely. Today we're looking at Malice. I've already made a video about Ryzeal. If you missed that, make sure to check out the channel. We're talking about what to expect from Malice today, what the deck can do, what I think the deck's position in the metagame is going to be. Look at an example combo just so you have a better understanding of what to expect from this deck. If you find this helpful, I would be very happy if you subscribe to the channel, left a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of the Ryzeal and Malice decks. Will this deck shake up the metagame as much as people are expecting it to, or do you guys think it's going to fall off a little bit and not be as good as people think? All right, before we look into some combos and discuss the deck in more detail, of course, we're going to have to talk about what individual cards in the deck do. The whole gimmick of Malice is that the monsters, both the main deck and extra deck monsters, will summon themselves back from the banished pile once per turn by paying some amount of life points. Don't forget the life points. When the main deck monsters are banished, you can pay 300 life points to bring them back. For the extra deck monsters, you have to pay 900. Dormouse says once per turn during your main phase, you can banish a Malice from the deck, which is obviously really good because whatever you banish, you can then bring back. They all have small bonus effects as well. For Dormouse, it's that Malice Link monsters that point to it cannot be destroyed by card effects. Just a nice little bonus sometimes. Also, when you use its effect to banish a Malice from the deck, all your Malices gain 600 attack for the rest of the turn, and that also includes the ones that are summoned after the effect resolves. But obviously, the main thing about this card is that it comes back when it's banished, and that whatever you summon off of it will also come back. And then we've got Malice White Rabbit, which has an on-summon effect that lets you set a Malice trap card from your deck with a different name than the cards in your graveyard, which is really cool because the Malice trap cards also have their very own unique gimmick. I'm putting these cards here as 3-ofs because that is how many copies you will expect to be seeing in Malice decks. These two are always played as a 3-ofs. They are by far your best starters in the Malice deck. The third one is Malice Cheshire Cat. I'm putting 3 here because some versions of the deck play 3, but there's also some that only play 1 or 2. It is not a starter on its own because Cheshire Cat has a once per turn effect where you can banish a Malice card from your hand to draw 2 cards, which is obviously really powerful considering that these will come back when they're banished, but it doesn't work on its own, right? It's kind of like this Allure of Darkness effect, which is also a playable card in this deck, by the way, because they're all darks and they will summon themselves when they're banished. So some people are playing Allure in this deck, and that is typically when you're going to see 3 copies of Cheshire Cat. In the versions without Allure, you'll typically see like 1 or 2 copies of it. But obviously, if you get to resolve it, it's really powerful. You can either banish other Malices from your hand that will summon themselves. You can even banish duplicates of your spells and traps. That's it for the main deck monsters for Malice. And then they have a field spell, Malice in Underground, which is a very good card. However, the problem with it is that it's the only spell card in the deck because technically this card is a starter because on activation, you can banish a Malice from your deck or graveyard, which is important that it also includes the graveyard because it means you can bell this card on activation. The only thing about this card is that you do use it in your combo. You get to search it. There's a Malice Link monster that on summon adds a Malice spell card. If you open with this card, because it's obviously once per turn, it makes your combo weaker because then later on you won't have anything good to search with the Link monster. It is still always a 3-of because the deck is lacking starters a little bit. You know, it's coming out with just 1 wave of support cards. We have Malice MTP07, which all of the Malice trap cards have the following gimmick. You can activate them the turn that they are set by banishing a Malice you control, which is really, really good for this deck because it helps you outplay cards like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler. When your opponent sets a card and then normal summons a Malice monster, you always have to play the guessing game of, hey, do I imperm this Dormouse? Because if I do, and they set a trap card, then they can just dodge my impermanent, basically resolve their effect for free. But then, of course, it brings this kind of mind game to it because if you have an imperm or a talents or something, you can just set that before you play as the Malice player, and it plays mind games on your opponent. So all of the trap cards have that effect. This one adds a Malice monster from your deck to your hand, and then if you control a Malice Link monster, you can banish a card on the field, non-targeting. Then we have Malice TB11. This one lets you summon a Malice monster from the deck. If your opponent controls 3 or more cards, you can also summon a Link monster from your extra deck instead. However, the monster summoned by this effect cannot activate its effects this turn, which is a big deal, and it makes it so that you almost never summon from the extra deck with it, because even if you can, whatever you're summoning can't activate, and because it wasn't properly summoned, you can't even bring it back when it's banished. So like usually you're just going to summon something from the main deck with this, but it is important to note that the thing can't activate. Obviously, you play this to get all of your Malice names into rotation, and is also another great card to play through hand traps. If you hard open it, you can just normal summon, activate effect, and if they Veiler or Imperm, you chain it. Then we've got Malice GWC6, which is basically just a reborn trap. You revive a Malice from graveyard or banished, and that is really, really good for triggering some of your effects on the opponent's turn. Typically, the standard lists play one of each of these cards because you can access all of them within your combos usually. I think there is an argument to include multiple copies of these two. You could do that to play through hand traps a little bit better. But that is the main core of Malice cards that you play in the main deck, and you will see these cards usually accompanied by cards like Gold Sarcophagus, Allure of Darkness, Cynet Mining, because these are all cybers. I haven't mentioned that yet, but Cynet Mining can search all of these. And also, Dimension Shifter is a common card in this deck because these obviously all also work when they are banished, so you can combo under Shifter. Now, because these are cybers, you are going to go for some cybers combo lines. You're going to have to skip on some of that under Shifter. Now, of course, the theory is your deck gets a little bit weaker under Shifter while your opponent's deck gets a lot weaker under Shifter, and that's why typically these decks can still run Shifter. Let's talk about the Malice extra deck monsters. First of all, Malice Red Ransom. All of the Malice monsters are link 3s in the extra deck. 2+ monsters, including a Malice monster on summon. This is the one that will add you a Malice spell card from the deck to the hand, which at the moment, this is just Malice in Underground. If it is banished, you can pay 900 life points to special summon it and also banish a Cybers monster from the deck. Of course, you can banish any of the Malice names that you haven't used yet. Typically, the target for this card is Thoughtscaper though, because in the standard Malice combos, you will have access to all 3 of these already. Thoughtscaper is a little bit of a weird one because it's kind of a brick if you draw it and then you don't have it as a target in your deck for Red Ransom, but typically this will make a lot of your combos a lot better. Then you've got Malice White Binder, which in my opinion is the best extra deck monster for the Malice deck. It is 2+ monsters, including a Malice monster. If it is special summoned, not link summoned, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard and banish them. Obviously, you can see why this card is good, but like it is especially good in this deck because you can banish any Malice monsters from your graveyard that you haven't resummoned that turn yet, and they will come back. So what you do with this card is typically during your combos, you will summon it once to like banish one of your Malice monsters from the graveyard that you haven't used yet, and you will also be able to summon it on your opponent's turn to banish like 1 or 2 cards out of their graveyard that are annoying right now, and then also 1 or 2 of your own cards that'll then immediately come back. That's not it though. Once per turn, you can set a Malice trap from your deck or graveyard. So this is how you get access to your second trap card. So basically this card itself, most of the time, is going to set the Reborn trap from your deck, and then you're going to link it off. It's going to end up in your graveyard, and then on the opponent's turn, you're going to bring it back with the Reborn trap to banish all your other stuff to get into your other interactions. If White Binder is banished, you can pay 900 to revive it, and then you can draw a card. This is how this deck draws extra cards on the first turn already. If it combos, it can refill the hand a little bit. And then we've got Malice Hearts of Cryptor. This card is the one that requires 3 monsters. You can't make it 2+. I don't think it's better than White Binder. Probably the one that should have required 3 monsters and not 2+. Hearts of Cryptor, 2500 attack, quick effect. You can target one of your banished Malice cards, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, banish a card on the field. So non-target banish as well on a quick effect. If Hearts of Cryptor is banished, you can bring it back by paying 900 life points, and if you do, its attack will become double, so it'll be a 5000 attack monster. A small bonus on the field spell, it hasn't come up in my testing yet, but the field spell says if you have 3 Malice traps with different name banished, which you can do by banishing them from your own graveyard with White Binder, your Malice Link monsters gain 3000 attack. It hasn't come up for me because usually by that time you've used all of your trap cards, you probably won the game in a normal way. Figured I'd mention it, that this thing can be 8000 attack. So this is one of the main things you're trying to summon on your opponent's turn to just get a non-target banish from this. So the Malice engine itself will create a non-target banish from this card, a non-target banish from this card, and up to 3 cards graveyard banish from this card, which is already pretty solid and pretty well layered because not all of it is on the field immediately. Some of it is in the form of a trap card that you can't like Dark Ruler or anything like that. On top of that, it's obviously also going to play a lot of Cybers combo stuff, Terahertz, Firewall Dragon, Link Decoder, all that stuff will be in the deck. I think the best way to showcase it is by probably just going through an example combo real quick. All right, so what we're going to take a look at is a version of a combo that Dormouse can go down. Now, I am aware that there is different versions of this combo. There are different ways to play out these hands with Malice. Also, depending on which card you open with, the line changes for every single one of them. This is not this type of video where I showcase you every single Malice spreadsheet line. It's just a general understanding of the deck. So it's possible that there's maybe a better line out there. I know there's a line with Dormouse that can play around Nibiru better. This deck generally does struggle with Nibiru a little bit. You can still play some lines depending on which opener you have that can play around it a little bit by making a little bit of a weaker board and maybe keeping some extenders back. For the sake of just understanding the deck, let's just go through what a Dormouse can do if you just don't get Nib. So with Dormouse, you would start by banishing the White Rabbit from the deck. The White Rabbit would trigger to summon itself back by paying 300 life points, and then you would activate the White Rabbit by setting the TB11, which is the one that summons one from the deck. At this point, you will have the ability to activate card by banishing a Malice monster. Before you do any of that though, you would link 2 into Haggard Lizardos. Haggard Lizardos is a very cool card in this deck because it has the ability to banish Malice monsters from your graveyard. You won't get a draw from it because you're not banishing a reptile. Let's say they decided to play around your Dormouse, like if you set a card before using it, they didn't want to risk imperming it and then you have a trap card. They also can't imperm the Lizardos because it is cost banished. Now we've already used the White Rabbit in the graveyard, so we're going to banish the Dormouse and use its effect, pay 300 life points, bring it back. And then we're going to link 3 into our first Malice Link monster, which is going to be the Malice Red Ransom. Red Ransom here is searching us the Malice in Underground field spell. At this point, we're going to be using our TB11 to banish the Red Ransom from the field, immediately activate it, and get the one missing piece out of the deck, which is Cheshire Cat. The Red Ransom is banished and activates its effect, paying 900 life points to summon itself out, and then banish a Thoughtscaper from the deck. At this point, you're going to be making a Splash Mage. And this is where, of course, the generic Cybers extra deck comes in, right? We can do some of these link climbing tricks. You're going to be using the Splash Mage. I like targeting the Cheshire Cat here, just in case your opponent has a Bestial. If they Bestial this here, it would still come back. And then you're going to turn the Splash Mage and the Cheshire Cat into a Malice White Binder. The White Binder on summon effect is quite relevant here because you want to banish this Cheshire Cat, of course, to get it summoned. So you're going to banish it alongside the trap card. You just banish the trap cards just in case you ever get to all 3 banished for the field spell. You don't need it in the graveyard. It's also a Malice card that you can return for Cryptor later, so you might as well banish it. Cheshire Cat is going to be summoned here. This is the first time in the turn where you will have the opportunity to use the Cheshire Cat to banish and draw 2. You wouldn't want to do it with the field spell right now if it was your only copy, because you can use this as an extender later, but now you can. Previously you couldn't because it was summoned off of this one, and when it's summoned with this one you can't use it, and when it's summoned off of Splash Mage it's negated. At this point you're going to link this Cheshire Cat into a link decoder, another beautiful tool for link climbing, of course. You're going to link the White Binder and the link decoder into Firewall Dragon, and the link decoder is going to come back from the graveyard because it was used as link material for a Cybers monster with more than 2300 attack. At this point you can use Malice in Underground, banish the White Binder from your graveyard, which is going to trigger and summon here. This way your Firewall Dragon has 2 co-links and you're going to draw 1 random card off of your deck, off of the White Binder. Honestly, there's different ways on how you can play this. I've seen versions of the deck that hold the Firewall Dragon for the opponent's turn. I've also seen versions that use it here to add back the Cheshire Cat and another Malice card. And then what they do is they use these 3 to link into Hearts of Cryptor. And this is going to trigger the Firewall Dragon to summon one from the hand, a Cybers monster, because the card that it pointed to went to the graveyard. So you can summon out the Cheshire Cat, and now you can use the Cheshire Cat to banish the extra Dormouse that you added off of Firewall Dragon to draw 2 cards. I forgot, I don't want to re-record everything. When the White Binder was on the board right before we made the Hearts of Cryptor, or after you summon it, you're going to set the Reborn trap like I said earlier. Of course, I forgot, forgive me. I was like, something's missing off this end board. So we've drawn 3 cards total. We've drawn 1 card off of the White Binder and 2 cards off of the Cheshire Cat here. And we're going to link into a Terahertz, and then we're going to use that one. This has 4 main targets in Malice, and you're going to send 2 of them every game, right? 1 on your turn, 1 on the opponent's turn. These are the targets that I'm seeing people play. Code of Soul to perform a link summon on your opponent's turn. Meteorologic Aggregator to negate a card on the field. D-Save Worm, this is the one that you're almost always going to send on your first turn, just so you have that spell trap negate ready. Or Enigmaster Pack Pit, which is like a more flexible removal kind of thing. So what does this end board have? And why is it so important that we've gone through like the Cryptor, right? Because we just made it, didn't use its effect, and then linked it off. So on the opponent's turn, next to the interruptions that the Neo Tempest Terahertz provides, plus the 3 cards we've drawn, we have a spell trap negate, and you have 1 out of these 3. When you use this Malice GWC06 to bring back Whitebinder. There's a whole bunch of things that are happening. Whitebinder activates. At the very least, you would be banishing the White Rabbit and the Hearts of Cryptor, for example, and one card out of your opponent's graveyard. These two would then come back. This one would activate to set another copy of a Malice trap card, which would then be the MTP07, which you can immediately activate by banishing the Whitebinder. Whitebinder was banished, so you revive it to draw another card. So in total, we have a non-target banish with this. We have a non-target banish with this. We have 2 interactions with this. We have a graveyard banish with this, and we've drawn 4 cards. This is still off of 1 card. You gotta love Cyberse, right? The thing is, like, this deck is very, very powerful if it gets to play. It's the sort of deck that you would like to stop in its tracks. Otherwise, it's really hard to keep up with because these boards are also super, super layered, right? Like, there's a Tempest on the field with a trap card behind it and a D-Save Worm in the graveyard, which is a great amount of layers, right? Like, you can't just, like, Dark Ruler this or anything like that. The spell Trap Negate from the graveyard. There's a revive for a triple DD Crow in the form of a trap card, and then this one also provides more interruption. And then obviously the deck, because it draws cards, if you just let it play, it'll also be able to probably interrupt you with cards like Ash Blossom. The deck can also theoretically play Dominus Impulse, right? The entire Malice line is dark monsters. You would lose access to the Dotscaper, but like Dominus Impulse is a card that I've seen in some lists and also has a lot of decent extenders. Like, we haven't even talked about Bystials yet. Like, for example, we don't have to go through the full combo, but if you normal summon something like normally isn't a starter like Cheshire Cat, you would go link 1 with the Cheshire Cat into some link 1, whatever. I don't have one here, but like, let's just say you use a Bystial, banish the Cheshire Cat, it'll come back, and then you can go into the Red Ransom from here and full combo basically. That also works. It's a very flexible combo heavy deck. It feels like a Cyberse deck in the most positive and most negative way at the same time. It's a more complicated deck than Ryzeal for sure, and it's also way more up in the air how this deck exactly is going to see play, because there's a lot of different options. Like, do you play Shifter? Yes, no. Do you play Allure? Yes, no. Do you play Signet Mining? You know, I've seen people play some board breakers in this. I've seen people play very heavy hand trap. I've seen people play a heavy Bystial package. Then there's others that only play 2. How many weird extenders do you play? Of course, the Dotscaper is here. The Code of Soul I see a lot, but there's also options of playing Cyberse Wicked lines with Mathmech Sigma in your deck and stuff like that. God forbid. Lots of options. Very powerful deck. Very high ceiling. Let's talk about some of the cons. If you just look at the 1-card combo and you're like, oh, that's what the deck can do, you're gonna think the deck is very, very broken. And if it gets to play, it is. But like, the full combo off of 1 card only really works if you have one of these 6. Those are your ideal starters. Like I said earlier, if you open with the field spell, you can perform a combo, but it is much weaker because you make Red Ransom, it can't search you any extenders. You can play Gold Sarcophagus, you can play some Allure of Darkness shenanigans, you can play Signet Mining, and that's about it. Everything else you're gonna have to piece together like multiple card combos, like Cheshire Cat plus Bystial. And that's, I think, one of the deck's main weaknesses is consistency. Like, it's consistent enough to the point where you can expect it to see meta play, but it is not that consistent that it's going to be like an undisputed top tier in my opinion. And the other thing is that it has 2 very distinct weaknesses. One that is already very common or projected to be very common in the format, and that is Nibiru the Primal Being. It is possible to play around Nibiru. I have looked into some lines in my YCS Anaheim preparation, but it all boils down to you still lose a lot of your interaction from the end board, and you have to go for a weaker line to begin with if you want to respect Nibiru fully. So you're making weaker combos even if your opponent doesn't have Nibiru, and if your opponent has Nibiru, they will still get rid of a lot of your stuff. Like, you're not passing on nothing, but you're passing on very few. So Nibiru is very, very good against this deck, unless you draw like more specific 2 to 3 card combos to beat it. And then the other thing, this guy over here, Artifact Lancea, is obviously a very, very powerful card against this deck because you basically can't do much at all. There are lines with Splash Mage, Link Decoder, Transcode Talker, where if you draw a way to get 2 bodies onto the field under Lancea, you can still make just a Terahertz. For example, I've seen some versions with Code of Soul and Signet Mining. If you have a normal summon plus Signet Mining, you can search Code of Soul. If you get Lancead, then you normal summon, Link 1, special Code of Soul, make Splash Mage, revive, make Link Decoder, make Transcode Talker, revive the Link Decoder, revive with Transcode, make Terahertz pass. Probably the best you can do under Lancea is sometimes Terahertz pass. You're not completely dead in those games, right? That is still a respectable opener, considering that Lancea is one of the best cards against you. But no matter how you put it, both Lancea and Nibiru hurt this deck, and they will be popular. I do hope that this gave you a little bit of an idea of what the Malice Malice deck can do, how it works. I know it's not a perfect introduction. We haven't gone over every single combo and all that kind of stuff. There's still a lot of work to do if you want to play the deck yourself, but this is meant to be more of like a educational style video of like how this deck works, how to interact with it, and what kind of things you may expect from it. Because like the first time they set a card and then you imperm their card and then they chain a trap card, it's going to be a real blow your mind kind of moment for everybody playing against this deck. So I hope this helped everybody understand the deck a little bit better. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, appreciate you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of this kind of content. Should I keep making these for new decks coming out for the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.